Welcome back, fellas. Today we have a college and NFL Saturday, so we're going to be going through both of those in today's video, the full slate. I have about 3 to 4 NFL plays, and I have 4 NCAA plays for the college football playoff. Obviously, by the time you're seeing this, you'll probably be seeing this when the Notre Dame game is going on, so obviously I won't have plays for that, but we are going to have Clemson, SMU. Actually, I'll let them pull up the schedule so you can see it. We're going to have Clemson, Penn State, SMU, Clemson, Texas, Tennessee, Ohio State. And as you can see here, we're on Pickett. Make sure if you're not on Pickett, you just go BDGE when you sign up. The way to get the online site is by getting on Pickett Pro. So if you want to do that and get it on your desktop, you can do that as well. NFL games, we have the Texans and Chiefs, as well as the Pittsburgh Steelers against the Baltimore Ravens at 4:30. The big games we're really going to be focusing on, we have one play in the Texas game, one play in the Ohio State game. SMU Penn State, I'm going to be at. Boots on the ground. We'll be at the game for that, so we're really excited about that. And then Pittsburgh and the Ravens, I feel like there's some really good value there that we're going to secure, as well as there's a few plays in the Texans Chiefs that I like. But spread-wise, the way I'm leaning each of these games, I'm going with the Houston Texans to cover 3.5. The Chiefs' offensive line has just looked horrible recently. The Texans are starting to get hot now, so we can see how that really looks from the offensive to defensive perspective. I think the Texans end up covering 3.5. Steelers, Ravens, I think the Ravens cover -6 in this one. Without George Pickens, the Steelers' pass defense kind of looks a little bit lost. I think the Ravens are going to be able to cover there as well. Naji Harris really beat up, seeing less than 50% of snaps. They're going to have to lean on Jaylen Warren and Cordy P, who I can't ever actually fathom that you would rely on. For college football, I have Penn State winning. I have Clemson winning in an upset against Texas. I am biased. Do take that into consideration. Realistically, if I'm being non-biased, I think they cover, don't win. But I'm still taking them to win anyway because I'm biased as fuck. Tennessee, Ohio State. I am taking Tennessee to win that game in an upset. I think Ohio State could end up being a hostile environment for themselves if they start messing up, which could lead to an easy Tennessee runaway. Plus, I just think Tennessee run game is so good. It could lead them to an easy victory here. But we got to see how Nico plays, and we're going to get into all of our plays, starting with the college football side of things. Again, make sure you're taking all these plays on Underdog Fantasy. That's where I'm going to be taking all of these plays, and you can take advantage and get the best values. And we're going to be talking about the best plays to get all the values, everything like that throughout this entire video. But for now, that's going to be the place we're going to be looking at. So the first play we're going to be looking at on Underdog is going to be Drew Allard to go over 226.5 passing yards. We took it at 224. Is it going to make a huge difference? Probably not in this one. I think they're going to have to sling the rock against an SMU defense that ranks number 7 in the country at stopping the run. Now, you look at Drew Allard's line, you're like, wow, he really hasn't hit this that much this season. But in the games he has hit this, I feel like he's going over pretty comfortably, 244, 247. Obviously, the Oregon game was only 226, so that's a close stretch. Washington still threw for 220, didn't quite hit the mark, but USC 391 and 237. So against two very similar-esque teams to SMU, I would say USC, UCLA, Washington. Those are the more comparable teams. He obviously had to throw the rock. Oregon, in their style of zone scheme, very similar. They're not a Big Ten under-center team that's going to run down your throat. They're not that sort of squad that this team is used to seeing. So it's going to be a very interesting concept of how this game all unfolds. But we are going to take Drew Allard over passing yards, as, again, they have one of the best run defenses in the country. So I think they're going to be able to slow down the run. Are they going to be able to stop the run? Probably not, but slow it down to the point where we're going to have to look at Drew Allard and rely on his arm a little bit more. Also, this SMU offense is very high-powered. We're going to have to see them come out, and they're going to be probably going shot for shot with Penn State for most of this game. Despite Penn State having one of the best defenses in the entire country, SMU is a very, very explosive offense and can take any play to the house at any minute. You can't count them out. I'm not going to count them out, and I think this is going to be a closer game than most people expect. I still have Penn State winning, but I think SMU can keep it pretty close as long as they have a good passing volume. Now, staying in that same game, I am going to go to the running back, but not Penn State's running back. I'm going to go to Brashad Smith, the running back for SMU. He's been crushing this line for most of the season, 7 of 13 games, averaging 97 yards per game. But they have yet to face a Big Ten defense, and that's what really scares me. These Big Ten defenses are made to stop the run. Obviously, when you have Abdul Carter on the other side, it's really tough to run on these types of teams that have such deep talent at these positions and the linebacking core that Penn State has. Now, with that also being said, he ran 24 times versus Clemson, even despite them being down for most of that game. Do I think that happens versus a Penn State defense that is top 10 in the entire country at stopping the run? Absolutely not. You look at how they've shut down other teams. Penn State's done very well shutting down Jordan James last week, only allowed 87 yards against a player who averaged over 115 yards per game and one of the best offenses in the country in Oregon, if not the best offense in the country in Oregon. But other teams they've shut down, as well as Washington, UCLA, etc., other teams like that, they've all shut down in the run game against these zone scheme teams, against teams that run RPO, that run a ton of read option, these scrambling quarterback teams that aren't running down your throat under center like a Michigan would or an Ohio State would. These are teams that play out of the gun primarily. That is SMU. So far, Penn State has shut those sort of teams down. Him to go under 79.5 feels really good. 80.5, I like the same thing. And I think he easily goes under this line versus one of the best rushing defenses all of college football. And again, I think SMU is going to be down this game. They're going to have to rely on the pass game to make these explosive plays. I don't think they're going to get it through the ground. So I'm going to lean the under here for Brashad Smith. Now, heading into our other games, we got Clemson versus Texas. And as you all know, this has been a wagon for me all season. We've only missed this line, I seriously, genuinely think, one time all season, and that's Cade Klubnik over 220.5 passing yards. It feels like I have a pretty good gauge on my Clemson team. And I have a pretty good idea this week that we're going against a Clemson defense. We're going against a Texas defense that is fraudulent against the pass game. You look at who they've played. They faced 0 top 30 passing offenses in the entire league. The closest one was Arkansas at 32. Obviously, they faced Georgia, but Georgia is also a very fraudulent top pass defense as they just beat up on bad teams and run the scores up when we all know Carson Beck is mid as fuck. Plus, they only played half of Carson Beck in the last game they played. So I'm kind of just chalking Georgia out of this. Outside of Georgia, they faced only one top 35 team, and that was Arkansas. And we all can look at Arkansas and say they're really not that big of a threat compared to someone like Clemson, who's ranked 13th in the entire nation in the pass game. You look at Cade Klubnik, he's hit this in 9 of 13 games this season, averaging 254.1 pass yards per game. And games he's missed this are like against Citadel, where he just didn't need to pass the ball. In games where he needs to pass the ball, he smashes this line, and it's relatively not even close. The reason this line is so low is because Texas has the #1 pass defense. I truly don't think that matters in a game where Cade is averaging 34.1 pass attempts per game. He's seen ceilings of games of 56 pass attempts. There's supposed to be 12-point dogs going into this game, which only helps this line more if they're going to be passing the ball more. I think there's a real shot Clemson wins this game through the arm of Cade Klubnik. Cade Klubnik has looked like one of the best quarterbacks in all of college football this season. He has been electric. Obviously, if this Clemson team was a little bit better, it would look much better on paper, as we have struggled throughout most of the season. But relatively speaking, he's looked like a great quarterback down the stretch. Game 1 versus Georgia was really his big flaw. I don't think we see something like that again. I think Texas is a lot less of a scary defense than Georgia was going into week 1. And Cade has seen pretty much every defense he could at this point to be prepared to play against a team like Texas. I think even going into Texas, we all know that Texas has had some similar to Ohio State themed screw-ups in home games where once Arch Manning gets on the field, who do they want more, Quinn or Arch? Is that going to be a whole narrative in itself? We don't know. I think Clemson could maybe turn the tides in Austin, Texas, if Clemson really gets rolling here. So I think Cade Klubnik's going to have a pretty big day. As well, they have a very fast pass scheme, and they want to get the ball out quick. They want to do some screens. They want to do a lot of RPOs. And they have the playmakers to take these balls to the house, and I think Cade is going to benefit off that easy RPO scheme. Heading into the last game, though, we are going to be looking at Tennessee, Ohio State. And yes, I do lean Tennessee in this one, which means I'm probably going to lean into the best player on Tennessee, which is Dylan Sampson. Dylan Sampson has been playing out of his mind. We get this line at 92.5 rush yards. He's been playing insane. Hit this in 10 of 12 games this season. Now goes against Ohio State defense that, again, on paper, looks fantastic. They look like a top 10 rushing defense. And you would be like, you're stupid for taking this line. But realistically, Ohio State struggles. Remember, going back to Penn State versus the zone scheme, Ohio State struggles versus the zone scheme. Outside of Michigan, which is the one team that they struggled against under center power O scheme. But they've been ran all over by teams like Indiana and Oregon, who run out of the shotgun. Also, Dylan Sampson has hit this against better running defenses, in my opinion, like Georgia, Kentucky, Bama, Florida. He hit over on all of these teams. I think he does it here again today in Ohio State when they need him the most. He's one of the best running backs in all of football. He's a super patient runner who finds the holes. I think he's going to continue to be unstoppable tonight and smash over this mark. Now we're not going to waste any more time, and we're going to go to the NFL slate. I know some of you guys are here just for the NFL. And we're going to start with our first game, which is going to be Houston, Kansas City. I only have 2 plays that I really, really like in this game. So we are going to keep it pretty thin there. But I do like the under on Joe Mixon, 61.5 rush yards. I know this feels insane with how good he's been playing recently. But again, he's missed this in 3 of the last 4 games this season. And he hasn't quite looked the same as he did in previous games. When he beats up on bad teams, it looks fantastic. But now he goes against the Chiefs, who are one of the best rushing defenses in all of the NFL. Like, they're not just the best, they are the best, the rushing defense in the NFL. They've only allowed, as long as I'm not mistaken, 2 running backs all season to go over 60 rushing yards. That's right. 2 running backs all season to go over 60 rushing yards. And those players were Jerome Ford, which was last week, which obviously doesn't look hot for this argument, and Sincere McCormick, which also doesn't look hot for this argument. But those 2 backs in blowout games did well. I don't think this is going to be anywhere similar. Well, actually, it wasn't a blowout game versus Vegas, but I don't think either of those backs are similar to Joe Mixon. I understand that, but it's also a different outlook on how they're going to approach the game. I think this Kansas City trusts their one-on-one opportunities. They trust Trent McDuffie. I think they're going to put him shade over Nico Collins and shade over the top. They don't have a threat like they did with Diggs before. You're not scared of John Mechie. Tank Dell has been very underwhelming this season. He's not really been the vertical threat that you thought he would be going into the season. I think they're able to stack the box and shut down Joe Mixon today. Is he going to see even the attempts that he's been seeing? He's had multiple games now, 14, 12, and then less than 21 attempts, where before he was seeing 25, 24, 25, 25. It's just, they clearly are trying to get away from Joe Mixon for whatever reason. So we're going to lean the under there against the best rushing defense in all of the NFL, and they've just been continuously shutting down player after player. The next play I really, really like in this game, and this might be my favorite play of the entire day, of all of Saturday, is Nico Collins over 26.5 longest reception. Obviously, he's hit this line in 7 of 9 games. You get now against a Kansas City defense that's middle of the pack versus super long receptions. But you go to the wide receivers here, and we'll click right here, as you can see. Oh, you can't even see on the side here. Excuse me. I'll move this in for you. Let's look at every game that was not Cleveland. That is how many players have hit their over on longer receptions versus Kansas City. That is every single fucking player that played Kansas City in the month of November and early December, and besides last game. You can even scroll back further, and it's damn near every player outside of guys like Raheem Jarrett, out of Ryan Miller. These are the only players that really missed this line outside of October. I'm not going to say it. You can see the numbers. That's really the only explanation I need. Nico Collins has obviously crushed this line. He's obviously one of the best receivers in all of football, arguably might be the best receiver in all of football this season. He's going to continue hitting over this line with ease, and I have zero worry about it. I love this play, and I think he's going to easily keep crushing this. But make sure you're also taking Patrick Mahomes to go over just half a passing yard. You get this when you use our code BDGE when you sign up on Underdog. Not only that, but they'll match you to a free $1,000, so make sure you take advantage. And again, make sure you're on Pickett as well, where you can see all my plays, track all my plays, see where I get all my plays for absolutely free. Just use code BDGE when you sign up. You'll automatically follow me. All right, heading to our next game. In the last game, Pittsburgh versus Baltimore. I feel great about this game. I feel like I have a pretty good idea of how it's going to end up going. We're going to go to rushing yards first. We're going to take the lower on Naji Harris at 47.5. You're probably looking at this like, go, what the hell? Why are we doing that? Well, you look at his snap count over the past few games since Jalen Warren's really taken off, since Naji got beat up. 39%, 52%, 42%, 33%. Not only that, you look at his attempts, 16-6. Like, whoa, that's a drop-off. Yes, it is. And he's clearly not seeing the yards to follow it. Obviously, he hit this against Baltimore the first time on 18 rushing attempts. I don't even think he gets close to 18 rushing attempts in this one. His line is 13.5. So that should kind of put it in perspective. I think Baltimore shuts them down in the run game. They have the second best rushing defense in all of football and all of the NFL. Look at how much red is on your screen when I do this and pull this over. A lot of red. Pretty much the only players that hit over this are like the Saquon Barkleys of the world. Naji Harris that one time. Javonte Williams hit his over at 35 yards was his total. And then obviously guys like Sean Tucker, who had really low totals, also hit over this line. But that's like it. That's the main running back. The main RB1s do not hit over this line very often against this defense. They're a very potent defense. And I think there's a clear path to him losing snaps over time as Jaylen Warren is looking more and more impressive. So I think we're easily going to go under that mark. Our other play that I have that I like on the Baltimore side of things is going to be Lamar Jackson to go over 220.5 passing yards. It is clear as day. If you can't see it, I can see it, that they're trying to just force feed Lamar Jackson this MVP. You do not play against a Giants defense that arguably, one, can't stop your run game. Two, obviously can't stop your pass game, but you just keep passing on them. You're up 28 points. You're up 28 points, and you're throwing for another touchdown. You're in the fourth quarter. You don't need to. You're in the third quarter. You're up 21 points. Throw more bombs. Why not? I understand you're only up 21. That's some people's narrative. That's some people's perspective. But at the same time, like, they just clearly want him to get more yards. They want him to keep passing the ball. I think this Pittsburgh offense struggles without George Pickens once again. I think Lamar and the Baltimore team runs away with this, but I think Lamar's going to have to pass the ball to get there, as this Pittsburgh defense is one of the better running defenses in the NFL. I think Lamar passes the ball for a ton. He sees the passing touchdown total. I like that as well at over 1.5. I like both of those lines, and I think he continues to just be force-fed this MVP, and we'll see if he can go back-to-back MVPs. But that is all I have for you for this video, so make sure to like, subscribe, all that sort of fun shit down below. Make sure to join the Discord to get all the plays as soon as they come out, and make sure to follow me on Twitter. I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.